Morning, my name is Lisa Daisel. I'm from the Unisa Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. In preparation for the January-February examinations, we thought that it would be helpful for us to just share some information with you, hints and tips about exam preparation. With me, I've got my colleague, Dr. Chipiwa Kodisang, and we will just be going through the examination preparation, things that you have to remember as you prepare for the exams, as well as writing the exams. Thank you, Dr. Kodisang.
Thank you, Lisa. It is important that we have a conversation as we tap into the exam or the exam mode, especially after festive season, because I can imagine how many of us are overwhelmed and worried about the upcoming exams. Why preparation is important? As I said earlier, part of the preparation is also to acknowledge that you might be feeling very overwhelmed by things you may not be managing well and the uncertainty about what the future holds. We are sitting in January while you are preparing for your exams. If you are a parent, you are also busy maybe making sure that your kids are settling at school. There could be a number of things that are not in order and you feel overwhelmed while you are preparing for exams. It's important that you also choose to embrace this opportunity to complete your examination, since it can provide you with stability in these uncertain times. So as much as there are a lot of things that are overwhelming, uncertain, and you feel you are not in control, you must not despair and then say, I'm not writing this exam. It's important to look at this exam as one thing you can hold into in order to stabilize or to anchor you in this chaos. Regardless of the type of examination you will complete, it is important to prepare as thoroughly as you can, because it is also important to have in-depth knowledge of your model. Remember, it's not only about this exam that you need to pass, but it's also about preparing you as an expert in this field. So in-depth knowledge is also important beyond passing this exam. I suppose you are asking yourself, why do the examination provoke so much anxiety? I would want to give you an example of or an understanding of why exams provoke so much anxiety with regard to climbing Kilimanjaro. You know, each one of us have got a dream to climb Kilimanjaro, the majestic mountain of East Africa. But to climb this mountain, it takes a lot of preparation so that your dream could become a reality. And one must be fit, have the right equipment as one moves from rainforest to snow-covered areas. At times, you also require oxygen bottles because you struggle to breathe. And most importantly is the right mindset. Today, as we are talking about the examination, we are also talking about your personal Kilimanjaro, and how your mindset could be either be an enabler or a stumbling block. And as I said, you know, everybody have got a dream to climb Kilimanjaro. People who succeed, we see them being broadcast on TV, nationally, internationally. So it's a very important step. It's a dream. And that's why you must understand with anything that is important for you, because you really need that, it also provoke anxiety. Sometimes we just talk about anxiety, but not understanding when we talk about anxiety, we are talking about emotions. And what are these emotions? The definition provided by the American Psychological Association define emotions as a complex reaction pattern involving experiential, behavioral, and physiological elements. If you could see in that definition, it's a reaction to something, to a stimuli or to an event, which then you feel in your body, and it's also psychological. Therefore, emotions are how individuals deal with matters or situations they find personally significant. And it is for this reason that exams are anxiety provoking, because each one of us exam is personally significant, because it's a gateway for you to complete your qualification. It's a gateway to a better future or a better career development. If we proceed talking about these emotions, what are then these emotions? As we said, the emotional experiences have three components. There is a subjective experience, something happens, contemplating something that will happen. There is a response, physiological response, which is, this is how I feel. And also a behavioral response of, this is how I react. Then it becomes a secular, because from how you react, another thing could happen and you feel in a particular way. It is important to understand feelings arise from an emotional experience and from the perceptions created by the self. It could be the perception that I'm going to fail these exams, I am not ready, and that could already trigger a particular emotional and behavioral or expressive response. It is important for you to understand that part, because it's important for you to have emotional preparation for the examinations. Most of us, when we are thinking about exams, we are thinking about content. If I can just read, if I can just memorize this, not understanding how emotions impact on how you sit and study or how you remember things. So we are now going to quickly talk about emotional preparation for the examination. It's important for you to understand yourself. In understanding yourself, what are your weaknesses and strengths related to your examination preparation? What can you do differently now? For example, what are your things that distracts you? There are people who, when they look at a section and they say, oh, I don't know this information, all hell break loose because they become quite overwhelmed, not even focusing on what they know. So you need to be very structured, that maybe you need not to browse through your books. You need to structure yourself and say, for now, I just sit and focus on this. Secondly, you need to be accountable. You need to accept responsibility for what and how you prepared previously, and then move forward. As you know yourself better, you make the changes you require for success. You know, we are coming for holidays. Some of us had intentionally said, I would study, during holidays, I will study through December, but maybe then you invited people or you accepted invitations that has distracted you. Can you take responsibility for that? Or last year you were just focused on assignments, but not studying. Can you just sit and take responsibility for that? And you also then tell yourself, now it's important for me to just sit and focus. You also need to practice successful emotional preparation for the examination. You need to understand that our brain needs practice. When we talk about practicing emotionally, it also comes from how our brain works. It takes practice and time to own your own mistakes, which is also from the cognitive and how you reflect, to get to know yourself better and to take care of your body so that you can handle stress, for example, or exam stress. That takes practice, that takes insight, where you know yourself and you take responsibility and you own your behaviors and your patterns that makes you more anxious or less anxious. When we are talking about that emotional preparedness, we need to understand the thoughts, feelings, and behavior and how we play into this and how this impact on you. You must remember that as human beings, there is always a thought that creates feelings. So there are situational triggers. For now, our situational trigger is the exam preparation, which creates particular feelings, which then impacts on our thoughts and our behavior. So what type of thought could we be looking at? I will be judged on my performance in the exam. Or it could be another thought to say, am I ready? I am ready and need to review my notes one more time. So you can see the two thoughts are on a different extremes, and they also impact on the feelings. If you are scared you're gonna be judged, it already makes you to feel afraid, anxious, and paralyzed. But if you feel confident that you are ready, you just need to go through your notes. It also makes you nervous and ready at the same time. And then you take deep breath, and you then are able to commit to your learning. It's the type of feeling one could experience depending on their thoughts. Then we could also have two types of people who are behaving differently. When you are scared of being judged and you are already feeling anxious and paralyzed and you are scared you're gonna fail, it means you will avoid sitting at your desk to review your work. You could start choosing something completely different, like you will just clean your house, or you go online, or you call people, but you are not doing things that makes your thoughts or your feelings better. Another person could keep on, I will take out my books and pick up from where I stopped and make notes and review previous exam papers. Those are different types of behaviors depending on how the person is feeling, but also depending on the type of thoughts that the person is having at that particular time. So it's important for you, as you are preparing, to be very aware about your thoughts, that how they impact on your feelings and how they impact on your behavior. In my work as a student counselor, you get students who just says, I'm struggling to sit down and study. They're just focusing on the behavior, but then they are not aware of the feelings and the thoughts and how that impact on them. So we now need to look at the two types of approaching your learning, either with anxiety versus confidence. If you are anxious, especially you are anxious, we also need to look at what causes this anxiety. Sometimes when we are talking about surface learning, it always provokes anxiety. You might be wondering, what is surface learning? What are the characteristics of surface learning? You just memorize for assessment. So you might realize that maybe even during the year, you will just study things for the assignment without getting into the depth. You are also unable to distinguish principles from example. So you are not taking time to internalize and interrogate this work. Surface learning also means you focus on discrete facts without integration or even interrogation or reflection. As I said, surface learning also is unreflective about purposes and strategies, even reflecting on how does this make sense to me? How does this make sense to where I am now and my situation or my thinking about the career? Then you feel anxious, and it also impacts on your long-term retention. So this is important, that when you look at your learning and preparing for exam, to also understand my type of learning and how does that impact on you and your anxiety. On the other hand, we've got deep learning, which builds confidence. Deep learning is an active search for meaning. So when you are studying this thing, you want to also make it meaningful to you and also purposeful. You reflect and you internalize. There is interaction with the content. How does this apply to me? How does this impact on where I am and my thinking about my career? It also means that you relate new ideas to own experience and previous knowledge. So there is an interaction, there is a relationship, you are engaging. You relate concept to everyday experience, which makes it more exciting. Then you feel confident. And also there is higher long-term retention. Remember again, as I started in the beginning, we are not only studying to pass exam. This exam is a foundation, it's a layer in building you as a professional or building you in your career knowledge. So there need to be a depth of knowledge, and you need to relate to this and have an understanding to remain confident and encouraged in your career and also in your exams. As we continue, you will see that there are a number of things that also contribute to anxiety and surface learning or confidence and deep learning. It could be that maybe you registered late, you paid late. There are factors that affected your studies just from the registration. If you think about it, last year we have the technology problem, we had the load shedding problem, the module functionality, which was problematic. There could be other factors, difficulties in the family. It could be the loss. It could be other reasons like work. Also late submission of assignments as a result of disruptions, which then made you to then say, in order for me to submit my assignment, I must just superficially go through the work, or even asking other people to help you, which robbed you an opportunity to really have in-depth learning. Some of the factors that contribute towards deep learning, I spoke to a student yesterday who have already started with his or her assignment in the second, third week of January. So deciding when to study and also when to register, where your study places will be in order. So advanced organization helps us with our learning and also help us with the distractions and the anxiety on things we need to deal with. When you keep to your study timetable, even now, you need to keep to your study timetable because that reduces the decisions you need to make. Deep learning kicks in once assignments are done, but now we are looking at exams. So your assignments are done, you need to go through the work, and that's important that you need to look at deep learning. But it's important that you get focused, because if you start procrastination during this time of exam, you are creating a problem. You will start feeling guilty, you will blame yourself, and that by itself will make you to be very overwhelmed. Deep learning is like learning to drive a car, which becomes very overwhelming at first, but becomes automatic with practice. Deep learning means making connections and integrating information continuously. When you are studying something, it's already in your habit. It's spontaneous that, oh, this is what I read in another chapter, or this is what I read in another course. Now this makes sense. So you are actively engaged and you have internalized your studies to be part of your daily activities. As human beings, we must also understand that all tasks we are involved in contain emotions. We have got a tendency in academic work to think that this is just academic, I just need to learn this, and then you don't think it's also quite emotional. It is important to understand that it's normal to have low and high emotions. Acknowledging them helps you to make an appropriate plan. If we dismiss emotions and we don't acknowledge our own emotions, we dehumanize ourselves, and emotions have got a tendency to become disruptive if they are not acknowledged. And environmental factors such as load shedding, especially during the examination, can have a severe impact on your sense of control. You are constantly worried, will I finish this, will this happen? Even as you are approaching the exams, you are worried, will I write my exams? Will I not have a problem? Will the invigilator app works properly? Those are things you also need to take time and acknowledge. You cannot dismiss them. They are part of your reality. If you are carried along by other strong emotions, your emotions such as fear and anxiety might be amplified. You are carrying the emotional load of other people on top of yours. This is very important because you need to think about the information you want to receive, especially during this time of exam. Unisa students are exposed to so many communications, the chats, the Facebook, the WhatsApp, and all sorts of groups. Some of them have got information that is very disruptive and destructive to your emotional space. So part of this preparation, you need to think carefully on how you are not going to expose yourself and get carried away from other people's emotions. What are the recommendations then? Because you also need information. We live in the era where information is very important. Even people struggle with FOMO, fear of missing out of important information. I would encourage you to rather at this moment refer to daily updates of the notices on my Unisa to make sure that you use a reliable source of information. And also this reliable source of information, it guards against provoking students' emotion. Keep yourself on track by checking how important your studies are in your life. While you are preparing, you need to remember the purpose and the cause. Therefore, you need to keep yourself on track. It's also important that while you are preparing, you also give time for gratitude for every small achievement in your life, so that it has a positive effect and helps you to benefit from where you are coming from and also where you are going. During anxiety times, it's like you don't see anything positive. And anxiety have got a tendency to take us only to the trenches where we see things that are just falling apart. But if you realistically sit and say, oh, by the way, I've even managed to gain admission to exams, or today I've able to revise and get that question right. That is important as well, because it also makes you to be less settled, less worried, and you can settle down, and gratitude contains you and anchors you in this difficult time. When emotions are overwhelming, you can do the following. Make a list of your immediate priorities, writing the exam tomorrow, so that you don't get sidetracked by other issues. What is important for you tomorrow, this week, next week, and in January? Explore options and opportunity after the exams, looking for employment if you are worried about what you will do after graduation. It's interesting, while you are writing exam, that's when your thoughts comes in to say, but where will I work? I don't even know the type of opportunities that are there. Yes, it might be important things to explore, but for now, what is important is to write your exams. After writing your exams, you can start exploring those employment opportunities or volunteering or talking to people. As we continue to talk about preparing for exams and recommendations, it's important that get yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially ready. Remember, you must not look at your exams as if my head is right, everything is okay. No, where you are physically and emotionally and socially also impact on your preparation and your performance during exam. Also, it's important to set realistic and achievable goals for each of your module. Set a study timetable and focus your energy on prioritizing your studies and preparing for your exams. There is a reality that there is a lot of competing demands and priorities, but can you then say, this is my time to just prioritize my studies and my exams? Minimize distractions. I mean, we live in an era of technology, which I always think the main distraction is technology and all the online things we are exposed to. So set some boundaries on those distractions. Maybe it's not technology, it's music, it's people, I don't know, but think carefully about that. It's important that you check the syllabus for each of your modules. Ensure that you have worked through the material for each module at least once. Revise your work by going through your notes and practice previous questions from assignments and exams. There are activities that you will be doing online, you have done online during the year. Consistently go back, check your tutorial letter 101 so that you go through all those important aspects. Don't cram or do selective studying. This can lead to confusion when questions are not asked in the way that you prepared them. People always complain that I had blacked out. Sometimes you have blacked out because you had cram. And now when they ask a question differently, you just get confused and you can't see anything anymore. And you have got a mental block. As we are talking about preparation, remember it's important to inform your family and friends about your exam timetable and explain how the online exam will work. We get a lot of students who are upset with their family because they disrupted their exams and then it created problems with the Invigilator app. Remember that your family relies on you, that you educate them about where you are, the processes. Some of our family members are not aware. They would like to support us, but it's dependent on the information we give to them and making sure you inform them of your needs during this time. If you don't need disturbances while completing the exam, you negotiate that and other support you may need. As we are still continuing talking about preparing for exams, it's also important to highlight sections that you experience as challenging and seek support in terms of this. That is the most critical area. We sometimes have got a tendency to say, this affects my confidence or affect my preparation. I will just ignore that. It's important that you ask for support and that you give yourself a fair chance to perform better, even in aspects that you might have a perception that you are struggling. Also understand the exam guidelines and format. Which resources do you have and use to prepare for the examinations? It's also an important question that you need to ask yourself. As part of the preparation, knowing the resources for exam prep will also help you in how you prepare and your emotional space. Remember, you have got your notes, you have got your tutorial letters, you have got study guides, because study guides gives you the study objectives and the prescribed books, assignments and previous question papers, fellow students and lectures, studies at Unisa and website. It's important that you use the official Unisa resources because students sometimes find themselves in trouble because of using resources outside of Unisa. Remember my Unisa step-by-step guide to preparing for exams, online exam, it's also available on the website. If we're talking about effective exam revision, we need to talk about this. You need to avoid procrastination. You need to avoid distraction. Stick to your study timetable. I know that you are tired, it's hot, there is load shedding. There could be a lot of things that makes it justifiable that you might not stick to your timetable. But it's important for now, let's focus. Prepare mock exams, exercise, eat enough and get sufficient rest. If you don't give your body physically also the health it requires, it affects on your mental health. So it's important that you eat, you breathe well, you walk around and exercise so that there is circulation and your brain also get enough oxygen. Identify the demotivators. But also as you are working hard in your preparation, reward yourself. It's important to ask yourself, what do you still need to pay attention to in the preparation? Which of the following do you still need to pay attention to? Which of the following is applicable for you? Is it to set up a timetable and make a commitment to stick to it? Is it to exercise, eat enough and get sufficient rest? Will it be a positive attitude that will help you to cope with exam anxiety? Will it be to stick to your timetable and also have time for other commitments or negotiate that you are not honoring other commitments? I'm not sure. You need to make arrangement for study leave. Is that what you need? Or do you still need to contact your lecturer, e-tutor if you are unsure about aspect of your work? Do you also need to discuss your exam timetable at home and explain to all what you will need to complete your online exam? All of these are important part of preparation. Will it be to identify and create an environment that is conducive to write exam? You can't just wake up early in the morning, you are writing exams and you are not sure where will you write, how will you write. We've got a lot of requirement now also with the app and the Invigilator app. So create an environment that do not create problems for you. The place where you are sitting, is the network okay? Do you need a backup? What type of backup should you experience load shedding? Have a pen and a paper ready to make notes or to do calculation, or even whatever is required as you are doing these online exams. We have spoken about identifying a space, an environment where you could place your device, and also making sure you understand the requirements. Earlier on, I spoke about the network, an area where the Wi-Fi connection cannot be interrupted, even maybe during load shedding. Those are things you need to think about. We must not take it for granted, and then in the middle of the exams, you become overwhelmed. Before the exam, make sure that you are familiar with your device and you know where to find things. If you are using a laptop, you must know how you can be able to convert documents and all that, and be familiar with the requirements. Exam revision, now we'll look at the timetable. It's important that you count all the pages in your study guide and textbook and divide them into the days left before you write your paper. See how much you will need to study each day in order to be ready for the examination. Do not cram the night before. We already spoke about surface learning and deep learning. As you revise, think about problem solving, especially in subjects such as accounting, mathematics, physics, and chemistry. They involve a lot of problem solving exercise. Make sure that you give yourself time to solve at least one of each of the types of problems found in your textbooks, found in your tutorial letters, or part of the assignment, especially those ones you deem difficult. Another part of exam revision is mock exams. Set time limits when practicing to answer questions. Make sure that you know which formats of questions you need to deal with. For example, multiple choice, essay type, or short questions. Create an environment and see whether you are able to perform, what are your challenges, and how you can deal with them before the exams. Assignment and notes, I think we have touched on earlier on, to say revise your assignments, answers, and pay special attention to comments from your lectures. Use keywords to make a concept list which covers all the major concepts, and where applicable, formulas that you have covered. Also use note-making techniques such as mind making, text mapping, and the question and answer system. The question and answer system is particularly useful for deep learning and learning outcomes, where you turn the learning objectives into questions and you answer them. It also helps you are already preparing for the exam type of setting. The last part, which is to look after yourself. Make sure you get enough sleep. On a physiological level, drink enough water, stand up and stretch, run or just walk around. But it's important that you also stimulate your body. Make sure you get enough oxygen. Make sure you take care of how you sit down so that you don't create challenges. The final thoughts. The exam is only an exam. It is not a reflection of your self-worth, nor does it predict your future success. If the worst happened and you fail an exam, you are still a worthwhile person who will live to enjoy another day. You have had previous successes in exams. You have survived exams and received good results for them. Otherwise, you would not have gained entry to your university. Maybe some of you are on your second or third qualification. Focusing on your exam preparation during these uncertain times can provide you with some stability and will help you to focus on your future goals. We do understand and appreciate that this exam is important, but you must remember it's not a definition of who you are as a person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kodisang. Certainly a lot of things that we can take into consideration. If at any time that you feel you would want to talk to a counsellor during your examination preparation or any time in the future, you are welcome to contact us. We're available by email, counselling@unisa.ac.za, and then on our website at www.unisa.hc.za/counselling. We also have a lot more resources that could help you and support you in terms of your studies. Again, thank you very much for the presentation, Dr. Kodisang. Do you have any last words that you would want to share before we end?
I think the last word will be, we always look at assessment or any times when you are being evaluated with regard to black and white, good or bad, good enough or not good enough. I could imagine that even this exam provoked the same thing. But remember, the purpose is not to test you that you are not good enough. This is part of the academic exercise. So we must also not take it personal when we are struggling. It's not done that you must not succeed or personally distract you from your personal achievement. You would still be able to achieve that. It's just that there are certain criteria that we all need to fulfill. And good luck with your exams.
Thank you very much. And also from myself, a very good exam period ahead of you, and all the best with preparing for the exams, writing the exams, and continuing with your studies. Thank you.